Welcome to another episode of the Superpowered Fancast. This is Darren, and I just wanted to let you know. I'm just not even going to bury the lead and tell you what this episode is going to be about. This is episode 39, and even though there's been a lot of news that's happened this week, the biggest news is, of course, the premiere of Black Panther. Now, I have seen this movie twice already. I'm jockeying to see it again this weekend to take my kids. Um, I loved it. I absolutely love this film, and I'm not. I'm going to be probably like saying a lot of, giving it a lot of praise, giving it high praise, and I'm sure you've heard the praise from people on the web. People have seen it, like professional critics and things like that, who have talked about how much they love the movie, and I'm no different. I thought it was a great film. I thought it was a great film. And when I say film, I mean like beyond just being a comic book movie. I thought it had great action. I thought it had great characters. I thought ultimately it had great story. And I think that's the thing that's kind of like attracted me to keep going back and seeing it, is the fact that it had an amazing story. Like there were, every character had his or her moment, and everyone was fully realized for the most part. Like I never got a sense that one character's story was sacrificed for the sake of another. I think they all kind of they all had their moments to shine, and they from start to finish. And I thought it was amazing. I think that's the reason why it's. I think that's one of the reasons why the film has resonated with so many people, is that it has just given it has not only shown shown African American and African people of African descent, people of color. It's not only giving those positive representation, but it's also just a great film overall. I think that's one of the things that's amazing about it. And I can't, and I'm not the only one. I mean, at this point, it's been out since Thursday of last week. Right now, it's sitting at $520 million worldwide. That's the worldwide box office. That's not the U.S. And it's on track to dominate this weekend as well. And that's a rare thing. That's a gift. That's something that's amazing. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about Black Panther. We're going to talk about the film, but you can't talk about Black Panther without talking about the history of Black Panther. And I'm going to make it short, but it's a great story. I've always loved it, and I have been a fan of the comics for many years. I've gotten back into the comics. I've gotten back into Marvel after Secret Empire, and I'm loving Ta-Nehisi Coates' run on Black Panther. I'm loving the rise of Black Panther. I'm interested in these stories, and I'm reading them, and I just want to see where it goes. But it's a great character from a great history, and the first thing you need to know is that Black Panther was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and the legends in the industry, and very progressive for their time in 1966 for two Caucasian gentlemen to create a black superhero. And his first appearance was in Fantastic Four number 52 in July of 1966. And he's had his own book on and off. Like some of his best stories were the Jungle Adventures. Kirby left and went to DC, and then came back and to Marvel, and wrote and drew the character again. And just he's had some really interesting, some really good runs. The Reginald Hudlin was in charge of for a while recently, and just from a character perspective, they've done a really good job of kind of keeping him dignified, but also giving him great stories to tell. And even when, and they, of course, there've been some stumbling blocks. I mean, it's going to happen when um, when he kind of abdicates the throne to become an Avenger. But at the same time, it's still some great it's still some great storytelling. So that's one of the things I've loved about the characters is really just the great storytelling. And he's the king of Wakanda, of a fictional African nation who has and I mean I guess I can't talk about because the film does such a great job of telling the story. I'm going to talk about it from the film perspective, so I don't have to go over the same ground twice, I guess. So the film is about T'Challa, and it takes place a week after the events of Captain America: Civil War. So it's right after his father T'Chaka is killed in a terrorist attack, and he has to come home. And I'm just gonna let you know up front, they're gonna be spoilers. I'm gonna spoil some stuff. So if you haven't seen the movie, stop now, go see it, come back and listen, or come back and watch the episode on YouTube. But I'm gonna spoil some stuff. I'm just gonna say I love this movie and be talking about it a lot. But he comes back to Wakanda. He makes a side trip to pick up Nakia, who is a woman who he has feelings for, and apparently everyone knows. But Nakia is his ex, and they make a really good point of kind of ribbing him for that, and that's fun. So you have like people, people like his sister his sister Shuri, who just kind of rib him for wanting Nakia around, and then you have Okoye, who like just that scene in the trailer where she goes, "Don't freeze." Like you don't see the second part, which is don't freeze when you see her. So that's what she's talking about, and that's a really funny scene. So if you get a chance, if you've seen it, you've seen it, but you get a chance to see it, definitely too. That scene is very funny and very fun. It shows like some of the really fun comedic moments in the movie itself. But what happens then is that he takes his place as king. He is challenged by M'Baku, played by Winston Duke, and he defeats him. But he takes his place as king, and they decide that they're going to go after Ulysses Claw, played by Andy Serkis. And Claw has eluded them in the past. He's had he's stolen vibranium. He's kind of like the big bad if you really think about it, but not if you look at Eric Killmonger. Like Eric Killmonger is actually kind of the big bad in the film, and we're going to talk more about him later. But T'Challa has to not only track down Claw, but also deal with being king, and also having to deal with the loss of his father. And those things are complicated when Eric Killmonger comes on the scene and decides he's going to try and find his way to Wakanda. And it turns out that he has a connection not only to Wakanda, but also to the royal family. So that's a great story. I mean, if you really want to kind of break down the story itself, I look at it as like a Bond film mixed with a Shakespearean tragedy, because there's some really great Bond film spy elements and action sequences, and which are amazing to see. But there are also some really great human moments, just really great moments of character development and character driven content and conversation. Like my favorite moments in the film are just kind of like the Vision Quest moments. And I don't know if you mean it's a weird transition. Like if you because the action is amazing. You get to see some really great action. The story is amazing. The depth of the story is amazing. The characterizations are amazing. But just some of those moments when it's just T'Challa talking to T'Chaka, and especially that moment when Eric has his own kind of vision quest, and speaks to uh, he speaks to his father, Unjobu, and there's just some great moments there that are heartfelt and heartfelt and human. And normally in an action film you wouldn't have those moments in it. You'd kind of take those out. But they do a really great job. Ryan Coogler does a really great job of leaving those human moments in so that you actually have feeling towards the characters in the film itself. And all the characters are great. Like I actually enjoyed. I mean, especially like Chadwick Boseman is amazing as Black Panther. He's charismatic. He's he's fun. He's funny. He has really great moments, especially with the other characters around him. Um, he has like a regal. He does kind of present a regal side, but at the same time, he seems approachable. I love the moments when he's walking in the streets amongst the people. Now, of course, he's being protected by the Dora Milaje, but there's a sense that he's not afraid to be amongst his own people, and that's a great thing. And the rest of the characters in the film just have amazing moments, like Shuri. Now, Shuri from the comics is a tech genius. She has in fact been Black Panther for a period of time in the comics, when she's taken over for T'Challa. But I love her characterization in this because like her conversations with him are like, I don't have a sister, but I imagine that's kind of how brothers and sisters react to each other. Just the kind of back and forth. And I love the moment, especially when he gets off the ship and she is kind of laying into him about upgrading his beads, and she walks away and he insults her. Just their whole back and forth is amazing. And the fact that all the women in this film have purchased, all the women in this film have a point of view and are powerful and are smart and intelligent. Like there are no victims in this movie. There are no damsels in distress in Black Panther. Which leads me, honestly, to my favorite character in the entire film, which is Okoye, played by Danai Gurira. She is probably my favorite character in the film, and it's because she is both fierce and funny and sensual, and at the same time she is a warrior. Like she there are moments when she is both like when she is feminine and fierce at the same time, and I love those moments because she just like there are moments like she has a glint, like a look in her eye that is both I can either love you or murder you on depending on my mood, and that's amazing, especially in the moments when she's with Wakabi. Like there's a scene in the throne room when she shoots him, like he says something and she shoots him some daggers that made me jump in the film, because I've seen that, because you don't want to see that look on a black woman's face, and I've seen it a couple times. I don't like it, but it was a great performance, and she is such a master at what she does, and she's such a and she has such a mastery of who she is. Just like the fact that she doesn't compromise who she is because of what she serves. Like she serves Wakanda. She serves the crown and the throne of Wakanda, and ultimately she will defend Wakanda against anyone. But there are moments, especially the moment when Nakia tries to convince Okoye to leave with them to go to go to the Jabari tribe, and she won't. Like as loyal as she was at that point to T'Challa, like she made a point that says that she is loyal to that throne. She will serve whoever is on it, and you got to respect that. And then especially then at the end when she just gives that moment when he's gonna when Wakabi's gonna ask her if she's gonna kill him, and she looks him dead in the face and says, for Wakanda, absolutely, like absolutely, without hesitation. So I mean, there's nothing but you can have nothing but respect for the women in this film. Angela Bassett, Letitia Wright, um, Danai Gurira, Lupita Nyong'o, like all of these women in this film are powerful and have great moments and great performances, and that is not only is it rare to see in Hollywood, but it's something that's absolutely needed to see in Hollywood. And this takes away the excuse of saying that it will not work on screen. There is absolutely no reason why we can't see these performances anymore. Like there's not anymore, but we can't see these performances on screen because they are amazing to watch. They're absolutely amazing to see. So the next character that I want to talk about is Eric Killmonger, played amazingly by Michael B. Jordan. Now, a lot of people have talked about how he's right, and in a sense, he is. It's one of the things that he's probably one of the most fully formed villains I've ever seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I've seen every film. I've watched every MCU film, and he is probably the most fully realized because you get a sense of why he is, who he is, and what he wants. Now he's wrong about it. He's wrong about how to get it. And ultimately, if you really think about his plan, is what he wants to do is he wants to. I was going to say, I mean, spoilers. He wants to arm. He wants to arm minorities around the world to rise up against the countries that they're in and take them over. But in essence, what he's trying to do is he wants to, the same way that colonial invaders destabilized the continent of Africa, he wants to do the exact same thing, thinking he's going to get a different result. And that's kind of where the folly in his plan is. But at the same time, his mindset represents a lot of people, especially, and I'll be honest with you, it represents people who have been raised in violence, who have been raised in who don't have a sense of who they are and their connection to Africa, and that's a lot of us. It's definitely a lot of us in the African American community, and to a lot of us, his mindset is perfectly valid. Or, I mean, it's his execution stinks, but his mindset and his plan, is not the worst. I'll put it to this: it's not the worst thing we've ever heard. But it makes him an interesting character. Just those scenes with him and Sterling K. Brown as his father, when he has his own vision quest, are both. Well, not even both. It's heart wrenching to kind of see that hurt, but to see him try and hide that hurt behind his anger. That he's not feeling like he's not allowing himself to feel the anger that he feels. At least not, not anger. He's not allowing himself to feel the hurt that he's feeling because he has decided that his anger is what's going to fuel him. That his anger is what works best for him. And it's it's hard to watch, but it definitely makes for better, more interesting character development, and that's one of the reasons why I think so many people have either connected with the character or have sympathy for the character itself, and that's an interesting prospect. It's a rare thing to do in any film, but it's definitely a rare thing to do in a comic book film, because more often than not, the villain character is just, you know, is just there to kind of to serve the plot, and Eric is, you know, is different. He's not like all villains. No villain ever sees himself as the villain, but Eric, for the most part, he doesn't see himself as the hero either. Like, he really just wants the world to feel the pain that he's felt, and he'll do whatever it takes to kind of get there. And it makes his story tragic in a sense. Like, it is kind of like a Shakespearean tragedy, and they even go over that. Especially like T'Challa goes over that and has that conversation with his father and says, and tells him, you made a mistake. You shouldn't have left him. You shouldn't have left him behind. And it's a powerful moment that can only happen between a father and son, and can only show a transition in a character's mindset. Because ultimately, if you really think about it, like, Eric Killmonger wins in the end. Because even though he doesn't get it the way he wants, there's a huge sea change in Wakanda based on his acts. And that's something that's going to be interesting to see explored in the next film. And, you know, with the performance of this film, there's definitely going to be a next film. So I can't wait to see what it looks like. Coogler needs to get back on board as both writer and director. I'm awed by his vision, and interested in what he has to say next. So now, just to kind of wrap up, there are and again, just spoilers. I don't understand anyone that gets up and leaves in the middle of a Marvel film. I mean, not in the middle, but at the end of a Marvel film when the credits start to roll. I don't know if I don't know if they just don't care that there's after credit scenes, or they don't think that they're important. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get the mindset. But I'll tell people, like, look, there are 2 after credit scenes in Black Panther. And just let y'all know, I'm wearing my Black Panther t-shirt that I got today from Loot Crate, which is, yeah, I'll go into that later. But there are 2 after credit scenes. The first one is kind of a button on the whole first part of the Wakanda thing, like him kind of taking on the legacy of his father and deciding that he's going to not open the borders, but he addresses, I guess, he addresses a session of the UN, and they kind of dismiss Wakanda out of hand and ask, well, what can your country offer the world? And you kind of get that smile, that smirk on his face, where he's going to say, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. And that's a great kind of segue into a second film where, they're not, he's not hiding anymore, but at the same time, how much of Wakanda's resources are they going to share before it becomes a problem? So I think that's going to be an interesting through line to see in the next film. Also, the final after credit scene involves Bucky Barnes. So you got Bucky's back, and you got Shuri, who is fixed another white boy, and she has decided to have him out in the village, and he's there, and I think he's convalescing because she is doing what she can to. In fact, what she says, she's rebooted him, or she's trying to reboot him. Like she's taking away the influence of the key of the code words that turn him into Winter Soldier, but leaving his memories intact. So that's kind of like the that's kind of like the through line into Infinity War, because if you've seen Infinity War, if you've seen the trailer for Infinity War, you know that that Bucky's on in Wakanda, and he's going into battle. And it looks like he's got a brand new vibranium arm to work with. So that's gonna be interesting to see. And on that end, I mean, that's kind of where we are. I mean, I'm definitely gonna. I mean, I'm telling you right now to go see this film. I'm saying there's no reason not to see this film. If you didn't go the first weekend, definitely go this weekend. It's an amazing film. If you've seen it once, see it again. There are going to be things in it that you missed the first time around. You're going to see some character moments, some character development that you may have glossed over to get to the action, but it's definitely worth checking out. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to see it a few more times. I think it's a great film. I think I gave it on my. I think I rated it like a 9.8 out of 10, which I think, I don't know if I was being being conservative at that time. I couldn't at this point. I'm having a hard time really finding anything wrong with the film. But if you go to www.superpoweredfancast.com, which you can see right here, you can read my articles, you can read news items, you can read my reviews. You read my review of the film. I go into a lot more detail on things that I enjoyed. There are going to be a lot more stories coming up about my impression of Eric's viewpoint and what that means going forward for Wakanda. I'm going to speculate on the next part of the story for Black Panther, and just a lot of stuff I'm going to be talking about as far as that goes. But at the same time, I read a lot of comics. I watch a lot of films. I get a lot of movie news, and I put it all up there on Superpowered Fancast for you all to see. So if you want to know the things that I know or read the things that I read, you can go to superpoweredfancast.com. Also, you can find me on Twitter at superpoweredfan. Just go there. If you follow me, I do follow back. I do respond to tweets and DMs. Anything that you want to know about what I'm doing and anything like that, just let me know. Also, if you want to advertise on the podcast, you go to advertisecast.com and look for a Superpowered Fancast, and you can see what ads that we offer, what kind of ad buys and positions and pricing, and definitely drop us a line and let us know. And on that note, this is Darren from the Superpowered Fancast signing off, and I'll see you again later.